Welcome to the Movement PT Coffee Cast, where we sit down and talk about physical therapy, health, and whatever else comes to mind during our coffee-infused conversations. All right, guys, welcome back to the Movement PT Coffee Cast. My name's Dalton, and with me, as always, is my beautifully bearded friend, William. William, how are we doing today?
Doing not too bad, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's it's not so cold this weekend. Last weekend, we got hit pretty hard with the good old Canadian snowstorm, but today it is looking not too bad as I look out my window.
It's been so up and down.
Yeah, it's classic Canada for you.
You got your coffee, though?
I'm good, man. Yeah, always got my coffee. Drinking Pilot coffee again this week. How about you? What are you drinking?
That's a good question. I'm just miscellaneous coffee right now.
Yeah, just whatever you could find in the cupboard and just threw it in a cup.
I guess we'll say that. Yeah,
fair enough. All right, guys, we're back at it again this week with another interview. We're bringing you a fellow, well, actually not fellow anymore because we're not students, but a DPT student, third-year DPT student at Missouri State, Matt McClanahan. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, man, you nailed it. I am so impressed with you right now.
Strong flex right now.
Dude, yes. That is so impressive.
Whew. All right, Matt, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Dude, not much. I appreciate you guys having me on. Coffee-wise, I'm drinking some Starbucks because I'm over here in Seattle, and as you know, Starbucks is king out here. So
yeah, you're in the heart.
Yeah,
the heart of Starbucks land.
Mm-hmm. Also, Will, I want to say your beard is beautiful. I cannot go. I'm a patchy son of a gun, and I cannot get what you got going on, man. And I'm jealous.
Well, you know what? The trick is you got to spend a lot of time on it, you know? You got to dedicate that time, like at least, an hour a day.
Yeah.
Just growing your beard, and then you'll get there.
Hold on, let me get my notepad out.
Beard overload.
Yeah, exactly.
We're learning a lot here today already.
Matt, why don't you just start off and just kind of let people know who you are, give a little background to our listeners?
Yeah, so Matt McClanahan, I'm, as you said, a third-year DPT student. I'm graduating here in May, but I guess, I'm not even that well-known, so, I'm happy you guys had me on, but, I started a Missing Variable podcast about a year ago, and it actually started out as kind of like a self-help thing. For whatever reason, last year, 2018, I got on this huge kick of reading not just, self-help, but, how to be a better human in general. And so I was like, I want to spread the wealth. I want to kind of help people out with that. So I started it, and I kind of quickly realized I'm like, this isn't true. I enjoy working on myself, but it's not truly something I'm passionate about, talking with it. So luckily, Missing Variable is pretty, you can pretty much spin it any way you want, right? What's missing? Who knows? So I kind of took the podcast and swung it more towards physical therapy and how I think we need to be more cognizant and implementing strength and conditioning principles into our Therex programs and things like that for our patients. And that's, I think, ever since probably midsummer of 2018, that's kind of been the scope of the podcast. And we're going to be having some new episodes coming out here soon. So everyone stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's a little bit about me, man. There's not too mumuch else unless, feel free to ask. I'm open book.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Will.
To be fair, somebody knows you because we asked who we should have on our show, and somebody mentioned you. So
no kidding.
There's somebody out there.
It was strength. It was Strength Roast. I don't know his actual name on Instagram.
Yeah.
He tagged you in it, but no, I really dig the podcast, and I've listened to a couple episodes, and it's really well done. I'm curious to know what brought you to the podcast medium? What was it that drew you towards using it as a way to have those conversations?
So what made me think about it was because I felt at the time, it just seemed like not a lot of PTs were on it. For whatever reason, it really, this was late 2017, I was looking into it. And it didn't seem like there was a lot of PTs on it but I could have been wrong. It could have just been in the bubble I was looking at. So I started looking into it more, and Will Boyd, I'm sure most people are familiar with. I was in early years or early months of the healthcare digital marketing group, and I reached out to him, and he's like, I just mentioned it like once, and he's like, dude, start a podcast now, do it. And there's like no question asked, So I was like, okay. And I, of course, played around with it for like 3 months. I was looking into how to edit everything instead of just going with it, and just learning as I go. I'm kind of a perfectionist up front, and then put out a good product, So that's kind of what brought me to it, is I just wanted to kind of get on a medium that I didn't think a lot of physical therapists were really on yet, and kind of provide some value that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because we kind of had almost the same experience. Like we also were looking at the platform, and we also didn't really see a whole lot of PT podcasts. Again, it could have just been us missing it.
Yeah.
And funny enough, we actually reached out to Will as well.
Awesome.
So shout out to him. And he hooked us up with his ebook. He had an ebook basically of how to start a podcast. Yep. And so we took that ebook and we just followed it step by step, and we just started it. And so it's kind of funny that that's kind of how you did it. It's interesting.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Similar, very similar paths. And I actually, for mine, I just brought on a co-host. Zach Wagner is the co-host now. Hopefully by the time this episode's out, you guys will probably be having this out sooner than we'll have episodes out. But next time you hear from Missing Variable podcast, there will be 2 voices instead of 1. So I'm excited, man.
Exciting, man.
Yeah.
Let's dive into physio school. I know you had a little bit of a different path to physio, so maybe kind of talk about what led you to go into physio school.
A little bit of dumb luck. So just a little bit about me is I'm the first person to graduate undergraduate or college from my family. I've had a couple people go, but no one finished a 4-year degree. So I've always kind of been that overachiever, or anything that I do, I kind of want to do it my best. So I was like, why just settle with undergrad? So I want to go to grad school. So I seriously went into undergrad as an accounting major, actually. And then I took my first accounting class, and I was like, nope, not my cup of tea or bag of coffee. So I switched to exercise science, and I was like, screw it. I'll be pre-PT, having never had physical therapy in my life. And so I did that, and then I observed some PTs. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this, which, by the way, my idea of what PT is totally different now, vastly different. But yeah, so I applied for pre-PT, and then that's kind of the history of it. There's no a traumatic incident that I had where I had to go get PT or anything like that, which is kind of weird. But like I said, I'm the kind of person that wants to kind of be as best as I can be at something. So that's kind of where my passion for always trying to push the profession forward comes from.
So what did you think PT was going to be before you went into school? And then once you got in, how did that change?
Oh man, the number one thing is that I thought my hands were the thing that were helping people get better. I thought whenever I would watch PTs kind of work on someone for their 15 minutes or whatever, I was like, man, that's sweet. I thought there was this system that was only for PTs that they were doing. And now that I'm in school and I'm knowing the research behind manual therapy, I'm like, okay, that's not what we're doing at all. Maybe we're calming stuff down with it at best. And, we need to be loading these people. So actually, when I was a rehab aide, I was taking people through the exercise. So I was kind of doing the most PT stuff out of everyone in the building, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. I think me and Will had a similar, I can speak for myself, I guess. I think we had a similar experience. And before I went into physio school, you get this, you're watching physios practice, and and the people that I guess that maybe I was observing took more of a manual approach, and you kind of get drawn into that. And then when we go into school, our program was very much heavy, manual based program. So we did a lot of like hands-on stuff. And I think me and Will got to a point where we were just getting so frustrated because like, you've probably experienced it. You're sitting there and like your instructor's like, oh, go to R2 and then, oh, can you feel that? And you feel this? And I'm just like, man, I don't feel any of this stuff. I don't know what's going on. And then you start to get like, you start to lose confidence. And I think I got to a point where I was like, man, I don't even know if I really want to do this anymore. Like if this is what it's going to be. And then once I started to realize like what more physio you can do as a physio, like such as education, empowerment, like exercise, like implementing a biopsychosocial framework. Like once all of those things started coming to light, it started to align more with like what I wanted to do as like with the profession. It kind of aligned with my values, and I was just like, it fired me up so much. And that's kind of what led us to even doing this stuff and like trying to push that information out to everyone.
Yeah, it almost feels like when you're in school and you have this one mindset, but everyone's telling you like, hey, you should be feeling this here. It's like almost like you're taking crazy pills. Like, am I the only one not feeling this right now? Like, does anyone else think this is a little bit off? Something going on here? And it's kind of a weird place to be in, because especially you have that going on, but then you have this a little bit of imposter syndrome where everyone's like, more than a lot of people, and they're like, it doesn't feel that way. So like, it's just this, like, PT school is a beast with all these different like ideas hitting you, and you're just trying to sift through it all. So
yeah, and I don't think you should be ashamed of admitting like, what, I'm not really feeling what you're saying, and having a little bit of skepticism with that. But I also felt like what I did learn from all of that was more, one, like some of the narratives around manual therapy and how you can describe it is really important to people. And then also how you kind of interact manually with people, making sure they're comfortable, like taking your time, like being patient, like handling them in a way that seems confident, because you don't have to be as specific as maybe we thought, so you shouldn't worry too much about like making sure you're in the perfect like spot, but that process itself might be important. So that's something like I kind of like toward the end of my physio school, I started like focusing on that a little bit more.
That's huge. Wow. Yeah. I mean, like little nuances like that, that people don't think about. They're thinking about where they exactly put their finger or their hand when they're doing this manipulation or this mobilization or whatever. It's like, just do it. Make sure you're confident in it so that the person trusts you and they feel safe and like that you're going to do what's best for them, and most likely they'll get better. So
exactly.
It's crazy, man.
So you're in Seattle, you're on your rotation. Let's talk a little bit about that. What setting are you in right now?
Outpatient setting. And it's my best clinical yet, man. Like my CI is stellar. Super, super focused on like narratives that he uses and the words he uses. So that's like actually some of the things he's challenging me on sometimes. Like nothing like that I say is like inherently like terrible. He's just like, hey, think about your words, how you said this, you could have just said it a different way. For example, like when I asked a patient was saying they wanted to go to the pool, and I was like, hey, so what are your plans on about going to the pool? And as innocent as I meant that, he was like, so that might come off as more as like a parental type of thing. Like, hey, you're going to make it to the pool. And I was like, wow, like I didn't even think about that way, so super reflective. And I'm just so happy to be where I'm at right now. I wish I was, there's some clinicals where you go there and you're like, can't wait for this to be over. There's this one. I honestly wish I could have finished PT school out with it. Like it's that good. I'm real happy right now, man.
Nice.
So what do you think makes a good clinical instructor then?
When they're even though they're in a mentor role, they're open to changing how they practice from someone who's still like a student. So for example, my CI, so I'm here 8 weeks. He was like, so the way we're going to kind of do this is like the first 2 weeks, we'll slowly, like you're watching me and we're going to slowly implement you more and more. And then you're going to kind of give me a little bit of feedback on how I'm doing things for the first 2 weeks. Then we're going to flip it back for the next 4 weeks where I'm doing pretty much everything. He's given me a lot more feedback on like what I could be doing better or like changing. And then the last 2 weeks, we're going to slowly start transitioning back to where he's back in the driver's seat, and he wants me to give him feedback on, hey, you know, you could have done this better. The way you worded this was, you know, not as great as it could have been, whatever it may be. But it's like this going from mentor to mentee, flipping it and then flipping it back, and just being open to, you know, he's just open to him being like not the best PT, which no one is perfect, right? There's always something you can work on. So the fact that he's open to criticism is huge. And he just has that growth mindset inside of him. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, like, I think that's a huge thing, is having someone that's willing to like learn from you as well. I feel like some of the best like CIs that I had were just open to everything that you had to say. And that is such a big learning experience for the student to be able to try to express their understanding or their knowledge or some of the things that they're trying to figure out in the physio world or whatever it is. And then try to talk to them about it and then have them comment on or have a dialogue about it. I think that's really huge. So,
yeah, there's nothing worse than having someone who thinks they've all got it figured out. They've got it all figured out. And that comes from like the student perspective too, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's so ambiguous and gray, and there's so much to learn. Like you can't possibly know what to do in every situation. Like everything's constantly evolving, you know? And if you go in your placement and your clinical instructor's already got that mindset that they have it all figured out, and they're not open, like you're losing right from the beginning. It's a waste of time, you know? People got to move past that. Drop the ego.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I'm reading Ego is the Enemy right now. Have you boys read that?
No, I've been recommended that book though a couple times. Yeah, how's it?
Yeah, it's really good so far. It's definitely thought provoking. But my CI and I just yesterday, we came up with this like term. It was like we're okay with uncertainty, but we're not okay with complacency. Mm-hmm. So like we're both comfortable knowing that we don't know everything, but we're not okay with we're not okay with just being like, okay, well, I don't know it, so screw it. I'm just going to continue to operate the way I operate, you know? Yeah. So I'm okay with uncertainty. I'm not okay with complacency.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good quote.
Yeah, I like that. Joe Rinaldi would be super pumped about that quote.
Yeah. How's he doing, man?
He's awesome. Joe is so good, man. Like I'm so excited. We're dropping his episode tomorrow since we're recording this on Saturday, and I'm so excited to get it out. Like that guy he's so much intensity and just so much good thoughts coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, he's a real good guy.
So obviously you value like education, right? So you're going through school. You started your own podcast. What's your thoughts around like learning? Like, what are you trying to do on a daily basis to like continue to develop yourself?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So right now, I think two major ways that I'm trying to develop myself are just in my like morning routine and my nightly routine. So each morning I read one of the like meditations from the 365 Days of Stoicism book. So I read that. I try to think about it for like a minute or two before I don't want to spend too much time on it. I got things to do in the morning, but I do that. I also read a little bit in the morning, about 10, 20 minutes or so. And then I do a 5-minute journal. Are you guys familiar with 5-minute journal?
Like specifically, is it like an actual, like I've write in a journal, but is there rules to it? There's rules. No, you have to, so do it this way. So it's like a brand, like they call it the 5-minute journal, but I bought like the app. So if you buy the actual journal, you're going to run out of pages and have to buy more, but they have an app for a one-time fee. And I was like, screw it, that's unlimited journals. So, so I did that. But anyway, you just say like, what you're grateful for, 3 things that you're going to do to make today great. And then like a daily affirmation. And then at the end of the night in my nightly routine, I try to read again sometimes. If I didn't get to it in the morning, and then sometimes I'll try to meditate, and then I also end the day with that 5-minute journal. Is like
put down three amazing things that happened that day. So it makes you reflective on your day, see what you did well, at least. And then, I think what you could have done to make today better is the last one. So, very reflective in how I try to further educate myself. If that makes any sense at all. I don't know if you guys utilize reflection to kind of grow as a human or not, but
yeah, no, for sure. I would do the same thing. I don't have the 5-minute journal, but I'll usually take time to sit down and like reflect on the day and just write whatever kind of comes to my mind, basically, of like what maybe I learned, some things that I struggled with, whether it be like in the clinic or whether it be in the like my daily routine. And then I usually start the day off too with like writing down 3 things I'm grateful for, and that's something I've been doing, and I really I find that's helpful, man. It just gets the day off to a good start. You feel good, and just kind of sets you up to continue on throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree.
Reflection's been huge for me because I react emotionally. You know, I get pretty like fired up about some things sometimes, and for me, reflection has been huge to kind of step back and be like, okay, well, like that's how I reacted. Let's reevaluate the situation a little bit more. You know, what happened? What can I do from here? You know, what are the variables I can control and what are the variables I can't? And then that's helped me just kind of step back and take a second look at how I might have reacted to something. I think that's been huge for me.
Yeah. Do you think it's changed your guys' like how you interact like in your daily lives? Because I feel like I'm much more calm and like go with the flow now compared to where I used to be. There's a quote. It's be efficient with your time, be effective with people. And I think I was living my life as trying to be effective or efficient with people, meaning like, hey, I have all this stuff to do right now and you're kind of interfering with it. That's how I used to react. Like, let's get this conversation over. Whereas like I'd rather be much more effective with people and have those genuine conversations than like tasks can be pushed back, you know, like, but time with people and actually connecting with them is more valuable than that. So
yeah, that's a huge point, man. That's something I think I've been struggling with a lot lately is like, there's just so much you got so much going on that I feel like I'm rushing through a lot of things. Like I'm trying to get through this cause I got to get to this. And when I was like in my best zone where I was like really focused on like I haven't meditated. I used to do like some meditation almost every morning. Like I got on a really good routine, and I agree with you. Like when I was on that and when I was like hitting it hard, I never felt more like just go with the flow is a good way to describe it. Like I just felt in the zone, relaxed. Like if something did happen, I wasn't like totally reacting to it, or I was just like, okay, like that's fine. We'll get through it. So that's definitely a huge factor. It's probably something I should get back into doing, especially lately. It's been just a lot going on with like clinic, with what we do with the podcast, with life in general. It's just like, sometimes you just need to take that breath, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I think for me, I've seen it kind of as like, you know, when you talked about that idea of not feeling like you know everything, but then also not being complacent. I know I botched a quote a little bit, a bit there, but you know, like it's kind of helped when I'm like interacting with someone because I recognize, okay, maybe I don't know everything, you know, based off of what this person's telling me, but I have the opportunity to look into it a little bit later. So it's okay. I don't have to get everything kind of accomplished in that moment. Because I used to be like, oh no, like I can't help this person right now, you know, but you're going to see them again. So, you know, not rushing to get everything done in one session because you have time to reflect and like to look into things a little bit more later. So it's kind of just helped me be a little bit slower along like the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not only helped me in my personal life, like I've been talking about, but also in that professionally, like it makes me more like slow it down with patience and kind of think about the person in front of me here and like what's going to best benefit them and not like something I realized recently is like, I like strength training and I think it's important in physical therapy. but not every patient that comes in wants to go back and wants to go get a gym membership after they're starting to feel good. And I'm like, it's hard for me to pull the reins back and not try to groove a deadlift pattern in people. So like that's something to constantly reflect on, is like, okay, I think that this will benefit them, but is this what they really want right now? Like, or should I kind of do something more that they think will benefit them best? And yeah, so just like even constantly reflecting in my professional life it's just vastly beneficial.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like how do you, because that's something that we struggle, I would say I struggle with too, is like, how do you navigate that situation when you're like, okay, I know strength training, or like you say, let's just say deadlifting or getting this person to lift something from the ground is going to be beneficial for them, but maybe they don't see the value in it. Like how do you go about dealing with that situation in the clinic, like based off of like your experience so far?
I think you can word things to where you're not saying, hey, we're going to practice squatting, we're going to practice deadlifting. So for instance, what we're going to practice is we're going to sit down to this box. It's kind of like you're sitting down onto a toilet, right? So what we're going to do is, and you just kind of word it that way, put it into relation to something they're going to do in their daily lives. And then like, if you're going to try to groove like a deadlift where you can eventually start working on an actual deadlift, but they don't even know they're doing what's called a deadlift. You can say, hey, we're going to practice how to most efficiently pick up something. Obviously we know you can round your back and pick stuff up, but like, to optimize a movement, you can say, let's practice on just bringing your butt back first and then going down for the bag of groceries on the floor, right? That's something that's in their daily lives that they can relate to, instead of like, just go down and pick up this barbell off the ground. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that is probably like wording it to something specific to them that they can understand would probably be the best way to kind of get that buy-in with those activities. I don't know. What have you guys found?
Well, one thing I've been wrestling with and working on is just the idea that not everybody is ready to take that on. Yeah. And like, I think we have a lot of pressure, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because it would be beneficial. And you're like trying to get people to see that, okay, well, look, if you're having trouble with X, Y, and Z, this is what I can help you with. Like we only have a limited set of skills, mm-hmm. we can't magically make people get better at things. Like they have to be willing to put some effort forward. And I've had people basically be like, I don't think I need to do this. Yeah. And sometimes you got to be okay with be like, all right, well, I'm here if you want to come back and I'll help you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think something like you hit it on the head, just like making it attainable, like related to them and their goals and like what they're trying to accomplish, and trying to show how they can do it in their everyday life. But a lot of times I find, depending on the population, if it's someone who doesn't normally strength train or anything like that, or like just say they're afraid to bend over, having trouble bending over to pick something up off the ground, like if you just kind of cue them and teach them like how to move or give them some movement options, whether it be like showing them like a different way to like deadlift or something like that, like generally once they start doing that, they start to feel better. So you might not have to load them a crazy amount, or you might not have to like progressively overload them to cause adaptation. Like maybe it's more just giving them a new option so that when they go to pick up that basket or whatever it is, they're not picking it up the way that they were before that was just causing them some irritation or causing them that discomfort.
Yeah, I agree. So, just modifying the movements for them.
Yeah, just kind of
actually loading it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the person. And you can load it, right, at some point or eventually. And maybe they do need, if they have to pick up a heavy basket of clothes, who knows? Maybe it's 20 pounds. You got to lift it up. Yeah. But yeah, just along those lines. I think a combination of all three of those things are super important.
I agree, man.
Yeah, it's a challenging thing, because like what we're talking about is guiding behavior change. And it's like, it's hard because you have to find out where they're at, and then you got to try to figure out how to kind of move them a step forward.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something that you're just going to constantly be working on.
Yeah. It's this balance effect that you're just trying to figure out which side to load more so that everything just stays in balance. And it's tricky. And I think, but that's part of the job,
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, obviously, you're part of the Level Up Initiative with like Zach and Steph. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, how's that experience? You went through the first cohort, right?
Yeah, I was part of the first cohort, and Danielle Crute was my
nice.
mentor. Yeah, Run Fit Doc. So
shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And Andrew, actually, Strength Roast. He was in my mentee group as well.
Andrew,
so,
yes.
Yeah. That's how I know Strength Roast.
Shout out to Andrew.
Yep. I was just gonna say, I guess I've been following Zach on Instagram for a little while now. I saw how passionate he was just about the profession in general, and that really resonated with me as someone who wants to basically just keep trying to, however possible, make PTs better in the future, and so then he started this Level Up Initiative. I'm like, yeah, I got to get in on that. So it actually has had a dramatic impact on me professionally and personally. It's totally changed how I interact with people who don't share the same opinion as me regarding different things within our profession, such as like SIJ and how much it moves and putting things back in place and, those things. So I go about interacting with individuals who hold those opinions totally differently from pre-Level Up Initiative to post-Level Up Initiative. So, and it's also made me more reflective, more having more of that growth mindset. And I'm totally in debt to Zach Gabor and Steph Allen and the Level Up Initiative because they've had a huge impact on me. So
cool. What do you think it is about the Level Up Initiative that really speaks to like new grads?
Yeah. Great question, because Zach recommended the book Start With Why to me. And so I just finished that recently, and it's that Zach and his quote unquote company, the Level Up Initiative, its values are set in its why. They know why they're doing things, and the how they do those things and like the what that they get out of it are just a product of that, instead of like their company is there to make money, and in the process they're doing all this other stuff. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but like it's just so genuine, and it just feels like their main goal is to help new grads and students, and a product of that is potentially maybe money down the line, but that's not like their main goal. You know what I'm saying? So it's that genuine human connection and wanting to get people better in the profession better that really resonated with me.
Yeah, man. So I'm reading that book currently right now. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good book. But I totally agree with that. And I think that's why we got the same feeling with Zach when he came to us and we were chatting about him like he was going to drop the Level Up Initiative and all that stuff. And like the second I heard it, I was like, man, this is definitely going to be something that's going to not only like help a lot of people and like develop the profession, but it's going to be successful for him from a career standpoint as well. And you're right. I think what makes it so powerful for people is like the second you talk to Zach or Steph or even anyone, like even someone like yourself, the way that we talk about the Level Up, just you can tell it's so genuine that it's just about getting people better, that people want to be part of it. They know it's not just for a monetary gain or to try to make a quick buck. Like it's very, very evident in the way that they put that across.
Yep, I agree.
And the cool thing is he's covering a lot of stuff that we know is super important and doesn't get really covered in school.
Well, hold on there. Who knows it's super important? Because I know a lot of people or PTs or student PTs that they're cognizant of those things a little bit, but they think it's more important to get that new tool to their toolbox, right? Everyone knows this quote: I need to get that new tool to my toolbox in order to be a better PT. But I think that's the thing, is I think it's our circle that knows about Level Up Initiative, that knows that what they're pushing is important in our profession. But I don't think everyone does, man. I don't.
I think you're right. But we did have our college come in and talk about how communication issues in new grads are one of the major complaints
Wow.
For like first couple years of practice. Like it's a huge issue because, and most of them come down to communication. But then at the same time, they suggest that we can't necessarily learn those things, that they're just kind of inherent.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which is like, I found it interesting to that, because I think that's like, we know what the big problem, not the big problem, but we know what's very important is that communication aspect. And if that's what people are struggling with, and then why aren't we targeting education towards those things? And I think that's why the level up is so powerful, because they're basically doing that. They're taking those things that are super important that we might not be learning as much in school, and they're providing an avenue for us to learn them. And I think that's why it's so good for us.
Yeah. Well, Will, so can I go back to that? What do you mean that they said the communication can't be like learned?
Yeah, basically, you know, and I'm not just making that up, you know.
Wow.
It's something that, you know, like, and it's kind of extended towards like contextual factors and environmental factors, and how it's something that you're just going to have to learn as you get more experience. And while I feel that might be true to some degree, but there are definitely strategies and communication strategies that you can certainly learn to, you know, improve your ability to communicate with people.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I just said, like, my communication with individuals who have differing of opinions than me totally changed after the Level Up Initiative, especially the communication module, you know? So I'm going to disagree with your school on that topic there, but yeah, man.
Yeah, totally. Same. I hear you. And, you know, it's unfortunate that that's kind of like being told, because then students are hearing that and they're going to kind of hop on board with that. Okay. You know, I guess I just gotta, you know, wait.
They're being complacent.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd be curious to hear like how your mindset shifted around when you're hearing, when you have people that have different opinions than you. Like where did you change with that?
Yeah, man. So I think I used to come off a little bit more abrasive. And sometimes I still do. If something like really like triggers me, like we need to do an MET to put your hips back in place. Oh man, it still gets me. But I'm trying to instead of me going into this, like, and not truly listening to the person and why they believe what they believe. 'Cause like, they're not trying to harm anyone, right? It's just what they've learned and what they've read and the research they've seen. So it's not that they're trying to push a viewpoint, to like push my viewpoint. They're not trying to push an agenda that's pushing mine down. It's just that this is what they believe. So now what I do, instead of like trying to just think of a response while they're talking, I'm trying to actually listen and then like rephrase it back to them so that I truly understand it. And then I can then say my side of the opinion, or of the conversation. So it just little things like that. I still do, just my personality in general is kind of, it just seems like a little bit of abrasive because I'm just super passionate about the opinions that I hold on physical therapy topics. So that's just something I reflect on, and I'm like, I probably came off a little bit too forward with this person when we were discussing, and I'll work on that next time, you know? So that's kind of how it changed over from pre-level up Matt to post-level up Matt.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about that. I think Steph said this before, is like that respectful challenge. And that's something that I really appreciated from Zach a lot. 'Cause like I think Zach talked about it too before, where he would attack back or get upset or respond emotionally. And now he's trying to change that to like what you're saying is like, why are they saying this? Like, what's their reasoning behind it? Can we have a dialogue or conversation where we can leave this conversation even if you don't agree, like, can we leave this in a positive way, or have made some positive step towards hearing either side's viewpoint?
Yeah.
So
I got a question for you boys.
Shoot.
So we all have this like mindset of like not that respectful challenge, right? But like, is there a place for someone to just like straight up call out BS and just to like, so for instance, there's people on Instagram that push some pretty crappy narratives and that are physical therapists, right? And they have millions of followers. And, you know, sliding into the DMs to kind of respectfully challenge them. They might not even look at that, right? So like, do we need people on both sides that are just going to put them on blast, but then also people who want to respectfully challenge? Or do we just need everybody to like respectfully challenge? And is that too passive aggressive? Like, what do you guys think about that? That's something I was thinking about recently.
Well, my thought is sometimes people don't want to have any challenge, and doing the respectful challenge route, you try it and they're not willing to have a conversation. If what they're pushing is harmful enough, I don't know if the right way is to necessarily just like, you know, go and bash them in the comment sections or not. But I think we need to be okay with sharing our point of views on our kind of social media platforms. And I think from our perspective, we really just try to do our best to promote the positive messages and the good messages, and to not contribute to that pool of, you know, crappy narratives to be sharing with the public. So I think that's my thoughts. What do you think, Dalton?
I agree. I think we do need to. I think you need that voice for people to call that out. I think there's a place for both. And I think as we come into the social media world, which is changing very fast, like the amount of information that's being put out by people on a daily basis is crazy. I think as like a profession, we need to police ourselves, right? So like if there is something like you're saying, Matt, that is like completely just, we know it's wrong, we know it's not the right thing to push, I think it does need to be called out. How you go about calling that out is, I think, is the hard part, because I don't think you don't want to be disrespectful, but at the same time, if it's very harmful to other people, we need to shut it down. And that's on us as a profession, because no one else is going to do that, right? So,
yeah, but harm, I guess. So I guess a key word there is like, if it's harmful to another person, like physical harm, probably not. Most of the stuff people are going to put on Instagram that are like pushing these, it's mostly the narratives behind it, right? So it's not like physically, but like mentally, someone could see this and be like, I need to do that because I have this going on with me. And it's just totally off base and it's the wrong narrative. And so like either consciously or subconsciously, these people could literally pigeonhole themselves because of an Instagram post that they saw, and that told them that they need to foam roll their whatever in order to strengthen the muscle. Right. That's like ridiculous. So, yeah, man, it's something I go back and forth with Instagram and how to go about navigating those waters, man.
Yeah, it's
really tough in general though, because it's not just Instagram. It's always been like that in media, newspaper. Like, open your newspaper, I guarantee there will be some garbage in there that's like incredibly harmful to people. You know, like you said, like mentally looking at that and being like, oh, this is what I need. And it's not research based at all, you know, and I don't think we've got it figured out, but I think at least it gives us an avenue to kind of band together and to try to push good stuff. So I think we have to look at it that way, because that's the only thing that we can do.
Yeah. That's a good point. And that's why me and Will are such big advocates of these platforms, is it allows for people that are trying to seek the truth and push the most evidence informed and trying to help people. It gives them an avenue to do so. And there's no one who can control that. It's an open platform, right? So again, that can get a little murky, because you can have the opposite end of the spectrum where there's going to be people that are putting out bad information. But again, it's always been like that. And now it's better now because it allows for the openness of it. So like we can push back. So I think for us is like constantly just trying to put out the best information that we can, and maybe not worry about that so much, because that's going to happen regardless of whether or not we do something or not. So
yeah, I think we just increase the amount of volume of us like staying in our lane, putting out that good info and that good content that we know is as best evidence informed practice right now. I think that will hopefully quiet down the other side.
For sure. Yeah.
And getting behind people that are pushing things that are accurate and that are really pushing the needle, like Level Up.
Yeah.
Getting behind something like that and kind of just following suit, I think it's gonna widen how much that good shit's getting put out.
Yeah. But you also don't want to be just staying in your own echo chamber, right? You gotta, man, there's so many levels to like this, like growing process, like, putting on people that make content that push your narrative, but at the same token, you can't just stay in your own echo chamber, because then at the same, like, that's almost getting complacent with what is like, you think this is the best, so I'm just going to stay here. But you got to get out there and see what other people are thinking so that you continue to make sure that what you're saying is still current best practice.
Yeah. That's a hard thing to do, but I think just even you saying that and being aware of it is a positive step. Right now, it's just like, how are you and how are we going to implement that so that we stay like in that right space? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Let's transition just before we wrap it up here. Like, I know you're obviously big with the strength and conditioning. I was listening to one of your podcasts. You were putting together a course to try to bring into like your program. How's that going?
Yeah, unfortunately with that, the way my program is laid out is like we do like a little bit of coursework, then we go on a clinical, then we do a little bit of coursework, then we go on a clinical, like in one semester. So basically I did, starting in like August, I only had like 2 months to try to figure that out, but I was trying to rally the second and first years to get on board with this and try to keep pushing this. But because I left, I essentially in like October, I left for like California, and I'm from Missouri. So pretty far away from the school to try to get that implemented. But I don't think that journey's over. Maybe it is with my school, maybe, but there's some gears spinning in my head with how we can maybe get this going with maybe just different programs across the country. So I think maybe sometime this year, I'm hoping to get something going to where we can provide some information to current students that want to maybe get a course like that started at their school. So yeah.
It's exciting, man.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
What's up next for like the Missing Variables podcast? I know you got the new host coming. Are you guys, you guys got anything else exciting coming down the pipe with that?
Yeah. So basically I brought Zach Wagner on late December, and we've been game planning. We got 3 episodes recorded right now with a couple more in the works. And we're going to try to keep this train rolling with weekly content, hopefully starting in maybe a week or 2. And the sky's the limit with that, man. The reason I picked him is because like we're basically both on the same page as far as what we would want where we want to see the podcast go. And I think that like I was talking about earlier with potentially getting content for individuals that want to start the strength training or a strength and conditioning type of class at their DPT curriculum. I think that might be something in the works with this podcast along the line. So I'm really excited for 2019, guys. And it's only January. So
nice.
It's going to be a good year.
Man. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to leave where you can, where people can find you, your podcast, even maybe Zach too, if you want to give him a little shout out, let him know.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at missing.variable. And then Zach Wagner is Zach Wagner DPT. That's the co-host of the Missing Variable. And then our Missing Variable podcast page is actually just Missing Variable Pod, all one word. And there is a Facebook page for the group, and you can just find that on Missing Variable Podcast.
Nice. And you're on iTunes, Spotify?
Should be on
Google
everything.
Podcast, yeah, wherever you can find it.
Yep, should be. Yep.
Go give the Missing Variables podcast a listen, guys. It's really good content. I've taken a listen to a couple episodes, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. And leave a review and subscribe.
Hey, man, you're plugging more than I was. I appreciate that. Yeah, leave a review. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Matt.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having a coffee with us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, we'll talk soon.